So chapter 14 of Boruto Two Blue Vortex confirmed that the new Shinju is indeed Shinki, the adopted son of Gaara. The chapter also hinted at the possibility of a new kazekage rescue mission given Kankuro's request for assistance from the Leaf Village, which means that a few ninja will be sent there to handle the situation. But who will it be? Well, the answer is obviously Mitsuki, and there's a reason for this. You see, as with the other Shinjus, Shinki will also have his own target. This person could be Gaara, could be one of his own teammates, it could be Boruto, or it could even be Kawaki, based on how omnipotence affects the Shinju. But that in and of itself isn't important, because none of them will be his true opponent. Now this makes sense given the motives of the other Shinjus, which is to consume the person closest to the main body. So if you assume that this will also be the case for Shinki, his target will likely be his father Gaara. So since the objective of the next mission will be to protect Gaara from Shinki, the Leaf will need to send some of their best. Now this gets very tricky when you realize that most of these characters won't be able to leave the village. Sarada is being targeted by one of the Shinjus and so is Himawari, which means that neither of them will be permitted to leave. Then you add the fact that Kawaki likely doesn't care about what's going on in the Sand Village and would rather stay by Himawari's side to protect her from being abducted. So this just leaves Mitsuki from the main cast of characters who will likely be accompanied by Shikadai and the other members of Team 10. This will of course lead to an altercation between Mitsuki and Shinki once again. That way they can finish the battle Mitsuki forfeited back in the original series. So the topic of this video will be who would win, Sage Mitsuki versus Shinki. Now this is absolutely valid given the fact that Mitsuki in part 1 claimed that he wasn't sure if his Sage mode would be strong enough to defeat Shinki. And while that statement obviously doesn't apply to the current power level of these characters, it does imply that the potential of Shinki can indeed scale to Mitsuki and possibly even above that. Now the first thing we're going to do is get an idea of where Shinki scales in terms of power level the last time we saw him. Then we can address his insane abilities and then we can move on to Sage Mitsuki's own abilities. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Now Shinki has always been overpowered and a tad bit unquantifiably so. This was shown back when he was able to keep up with Urashiki Otsutsuki, the same person Gaara and Sasuke had issues with, even before Sasuke got his chakra stolen. Now there's a lot of arguments that can be made around the logical consistency behind Urashiki's scaling, but the most consistent interpretation is that he's at least relative to Sasuke with his Rinnegan. So whatever shenanigans that took place after this moment, such as him getting poisoned or even underestimating his opponents, is completely irrelevant. What we know for sure is that he's able to hold off a full power Sasuke and Gaara at the same time. Now in a 1v1 fight, Shinki isn't beating Urashiki, but being able to react to him and damage him does upscale him quite a bit. Then you have the issue of his sand, which is definitely one of the top 3 defenses in the entire franchise. This was shown by him being able to block Urashiki's durability negating rod multiple times. The same rod that was able to easily bypass Sasuke's natural defenses along with Gaara's sand. By the way, Shinki uses what's called iron sand, which he manipulates using the magnet release Kekkei Genkai. This of course is the combination of 2 nature elements known as wind release and earth release, which Shinki possesses. He has also shown the ability to perform lightning release, which he sometimes uses to strengthen his iron sand. Now this is a double-edged sword since someone with a strong enough lightning release could easily bypass or destabilize his iron sand, which is what happened when Boruto used Kakashi's purple lightning that was stored in the ninja tool. With that said, Shinki does have other abilities such as the iron sand marking, which ensures that Shinki's sand-based attacks are magnetically drawn to the marked individual. He's also able to use these sand eyes similar to Gaara. He has the sand wall, the sand clone, the sand wave, the sand coffin, and even wings that allows him to fly. There's even the puppet technique through which he can perform sealing jutsu. So as you can see, Shinki is pretty stacked in terms of abilities, which would be in addition to the Shinju's ability to use the claw marks. By the way, it was initially believed that the Shinjus could only use one of the abilities from the person they copied. But as seen in chapter 11, Hidori was able to use Sasuke's Chidori and his fireball jutsu, which means that the Shinki Shinju will likely have access to multiple abilities as well. Now with that said, what about Mitsuki? Well, in his case, we don't necessarily need to use his feats from part 1 given his fight versus Boruto in Two Blue Vortex. Now this fight is actually one of the most anticipated fights in Boruto, both in universe and out. This has been teased and hinted at so many points in the manga, so when it finally happened and Mitsuki got washed, a lot of Mitsuki fans were disappointed. Now the fight itself began in chapter 6 when Mitsuki tried to sneak Boruto by wrapping his snake around him. Though just before the snake could actually attack him, Boruto used his immaculate hip thrusting prowess to launch his sword into the air and then use Flying Raijin to teleport towards it. This interaction proved that Boruto himself is faster than the attack speed of Mitsuki's snakes, and also that Boruto is actually quite skillful in how he employs FTG. Now the fight didn't end there, since Mitsuki tried attacking Boruto once again with his Sage Amped Ethereal Snakes, but Boruto wasn't fazed by this since he was able to easily cut through them by amping his sword with Purple Lightning. Mitsuki then tried another snake attack called Striking Shadow Snake Attack, which resulted in massive snakes erupting from beneath the Earth's surface. This then prompted Boruto to escape using his ability to fly, which he inherited from Momoshiki's genetics. He then left the scene since he wasn't really interested in fighting Mitsuki, but Mitsuki wasn't having that and decided to follow him on foot. Now the second portion of the fight continued in chapter 7, which had Mitsuki charging at Boruto while deflecting his shurikens. Boruto then proceeded to effortlessly dodge Mitsuki's snakes once again, then teleported to one of his shurikens using Flying Thunder God. Mitsuki then decided to let loose by first creating Snake Sage clones and launching a barrage of attacks at Boruto, which he of course evaded, but he did manage to destroy the forest. Now Boruto then decided to stop playing around and easily blitzed and destroyed all of Mitsuki's Sage clones with a single slash from his lightning imbued sword. Mitsuki himself then tried attacking him using his Snake Lightning, but Boruto easily negated it using his own lightning bolt. This then caused a mass of smoke to fill the area, which Boruto used as a cover to end the fight by resting his sword on Mitsuki's neck. So as you can see, the fight itself was pretty amazing since you got to see Boruto employ his lightning based abilities, Flying Thunder God in unique ways, and even Mitsuki using Snake Lightning, Snake Clones, and other ethereal based snake abilities, which would be useful against Shinki to some degree. Because as I said before, someone with a powerful enough lightning release can bypass Shinki's Iron Sand, and that's because lightning generates heat, which can be used to weaken the surface of iron. It could also induce magnetic fields that can deform the iron itself. Now this could be done by someone drastically stronger than Shinki without the use of this method, but Mitsuki likely won't be. You see, given his showing against base Boruto coming off his fight with the Shinjus and Code, Mitsuki clearly is nowhere near the levels of Boruto. And this isn't a dig against Mitsuki because Boruto is the protagonist and Mitsuki isn't his rival. So him being on Boruto's level at this point in the series was always unlikely. Now some would argue that Mitsuki is stronger than Kawaki based on him saying that Kawaki is no match for Boruto, yet he believed that he could defeat him by letting loose. And while this might be the case, I'm not sure if we can use those statements to come to that conclusion. Mainly because Boruto outright says that Mitsuki doesn't stand a chance against him if Kawaki doesn't, which means that he believes that Mitsuki in Sage mode is still weaker than Kawaki. And also because he later states to Mitsuki that he thought he came prepared to die, when in fact he's just desperate, which means that Mitsuki showing up to fight him even though he thinks Boruto far surpasses Kawaki isn't because he thought he would do better in that fight, but more so because he wanted to confirm his feelings regardless of the outcome. So by every single accord, or by all accords, I think that's the saying, we have no idea where Mitsuki scales in comparison to Kawaki, but we know for sure that he scales significantly below base Boruto even in Sage mode. Now this is very significant based on where Boruto scales to the other Shinjus as seen in chapter 4. So the fight itself began after the bug Shinju flew into Boruto and slammed him into the wall behind him. Boruto then used what appears to be a variant of Shidori's Stream in retaliation, and even though the Shinju did take some damage based on the scratches shown on his body, he was able to shrug it off pretty quickly and tried to launch another attack moments later. Boruto then escaped using Flying Thunder God as indicated by the bug Shinju referring to his jutsu as tricky. By the way, this interaction by itself proves that this bug Shinju would absolutely destroy Kawaki. Him being able to ram into Boruto before he could dodge, similar to how Boruto dodged all of Kawaki's attacks, proves that he's at least faster than Kawaki. You could even make the case for durability since he also tanked Boruto's lightning style jutsu, while Kawaki got downed by a minor punch. Though this depends on if you think the punch had more might behind it than the lightning infused technique, which is possible I guess. There's also a point when Boruto actually looked worried and had to use Flying Raijin to escape Bug's technique, which likely means that he would have taken damage, or at least he couldn't physically dodge it. So yeah, the bug Shinju is at least relative to base Boruto. Then you have the Sasuke Shinju trying to decapitate Boruto after teleporting using code scar marks. Now Boruto was able to easily dodge this of course, but the Shinju then followed up with Sasuke's Chidori, which Boruto negated using his own Rasengan. Now this also implies some level of relativity, since a character wouldn't be able to negate or cancel out an attack from someone else if that person was significantly stronger. So while Boruto might be above Hidari, the gap isn't that significant. Now the reason why I mentioned all of this is because it plays into how powerful the Shinki Shinju might be. That's because if the bug Shinju stemmed from someone relatively insignificant, but he's able to apply more pressure to Boruto than Mitsuki did while Boruto was holding back, it doesn't look bright for Mitsuki if someone as strong as Shinki becomes his Shinju opponent. The only way Mitsuki would stand a chance against a Shinki Shinju is if the time spent being a tree is what made the bug Shinju so powerful. So a Shinki Shinju wouldn't receive as much of a buff since he was just recently turned into a tree. Now if that's not the case, Mitsuki would need to get drastically stronger between now and his rematch with Shinki, which in typical shonen fashion might only take place after he loses to the Shinki Shinju. With that said, there's a wild card Mitsuki could pull, which would be the guarded snake that put Kawaki to sleep in chapter 6. If he's able to have it sneak its way onto the Shinki Shinju, he might actually be able to win. Now that aside, the fight could really go either way, to be honest, but from a storytelling perspective, it obviously won't be an easy one for Mitsuki to win. It really just depends on how large Ikimoto wants the gap to be between the two of them. In any case, we might see Mitsuki team up with Boruto since his base of operations is in the Land of Wind, which is where the Sand Village is located, so there's another hint towards Mitsuki being the obvious man for this mission. With that said, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think this video made sense? If not, let me know why, and if it does, let me know why as well, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, drop a like. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.